there's been a lot of news published recently about Nvidia, and a lot of that news has related to either Hedera Governing Council members, the network, other people building on the network. So it's very interesting in that regard. I would say it's safe to say that it would be a stretch for Nvidia not to know about Hedera. But really quick, if you want to get all the links to the stories we talk about on the show today, hashgraph.news. So Nvidia, what's going on with Nvidia? So basically, I'm just going to rip through a few stories that just kind of brought me to this conclusion. So the first one was a press release that was published on Nvidia's website May last year, that the headline is Dell Technologies and Nvidia introduced Project Helix for secure on-premises generative AI. So Dell Technologies and Nvidia are working on an AI use case. Also, Dell Technologies is a governing council member. A recent story from this year, just from last week, from Hitachi USA, right? Hitachi US specifically. Hitachi is collaborating with Nvidia for generative AI, for driving digital transformation and developing Hitachi IQ, an infrastructure framework for generative AI. Another Hedera Governing Council member, building with Nvidia. And again, I want to be very specific. Dell is not a Hedera Governing Council member. Dell Technologies is a Hedera Governing Council member. Dell is not working with Nvidia. Dell Technologies is working with Nvidia. Hitachi is not a Governing Council member. Hitachi US is a Governing Council member. Hitachi is not working with Nvidia. Hitachi US is working with Nvidia. So just getting specific here. Another headline, this headline coming to us from earlier this year, February, so just a month ago, is ServiceNow, Hugging Face, and Nvidia release new open access LLMs to help developers tap generative AI to build enterprise applications. ServiceNow is another Hedera Governing Council member, and they are working with Nvidia. So right there, and again, getting very specific, Nvidia is working currently with 3 Hedera Governing Council members. That's pretty interesting. We have seen in the past that being a signal potentially for, a Governing Council member. Also, too, again, it's not specifically clear if all of these use cases are leveraging Hedera or Hashgraph or blockchain. But again, it is clear that they are working with Governing Council members. So take that as you will. The other thing is if we want to talk about use cases that are leveraging Hedera and are working with Hedera, is the recent news published, I believe, yesterday by the HBAR Foundation. Headline here: powered by Hedera and Unreal Engine, the team at Astra Nova have forged further partnerships with Nvidia and Steam. Right? Steam being the Valve property, which is kind of like the app store for video games, big company. And they also have their token. Astra Nova has a token. So again, built on Hedera, gaming use case. This isn't necessarily Nvidia working with a Hedera Governing Council member, but it's a Hedera gaming use case working with Nvidia. So again, this alone isn't anything to kind of write home about when it comes to Nvidia's place in the Hedera ecosystem, but it does kind of add to that. Further adding to that is like just the fact that Lehman, Mance, and a lot of other people, and I think more generally the messaging approach of Hedera and the foundation, this and that, is very much focused on AI and those different types of things. Also mentioning, Elon Musk and those related properties much more. we'll talk about the recent First Principles episode in a minute, but I think that as well, like there's just in combination with these specific announcements, there is this overarching theme of Hedera changing in that regard. Whereas in the past, they wouldn't really get this kind of salacious. They wouldn't really directly mention Elon Musk or stuff like that. But now it's like, let me try to phrase this. If Hedera and Nvidia weren't trying to court each other in some aspect on the long term, would they be doing anything different is kind of like my question. And I don't know. And specifically, we haven't seen Nvidia proper talk about Hedera specifically or anything like that. So we're not quite there yet. But when we talk about breadcrumbs, this is the definition of what breadcrumbs are. And the last thing to mention about this that does tie back to the information that was shared with me by the anonymous source was, again, that source mentioned a monster use case coming in Q3 in this ecosystem. And so again, you could wrap this kind of stuff around that. Again, that's just just purely speculation. But again, that's where my brain goes. But that's the Nvidia breadcrumbs. Again, breadcrumbs, rumors, nothing of real substance here, just circumstance, confluence, points of confirmation, and the unignorable fact that 3 active Hedera governing council members are working with Nvidia, and that's just the beginning of how Nvidia is working with people inside the Hedera ecosystem. So, anyways, very interesting stuff. If you think about like what would happen if Nvidia got added as a governing council member, or what would happen if Nvidia launched some kind of use case, I think it's pretty clear what kind of use case Nvidia would launch on Hedera. We've seen so many different, like we've seen what Equity Lab has been doing with Hugging Face and just the provenance aspect of AI. Nvidia just launched a new chip, all that kind of stuff. So imagine that kind of technology being built into the hardware or something like that. My brain goes wild with it, but who knows? Again, pure speculation. There was a new Masari crypto report done specifically for Hedera DeFi.